I am so delighted to have this opportunity to welcome you all to this campus of Institute of Mathematical Sciences to celebrate this historic occasion. I will begin by inviting the dignitaries to the dais, Professor Rees, Professor Mani, Professor Mugunda, and Professor Balasubramanian, our director. To make our distinguished guests get some feeling of the program, we will present them with a bouquet. If there is one person missed most in this function, this is Mrs. Rees. She could not come. Therefore, as a representative of her, there are some people from the Savarirayan family. Professor Savarirayan was the principal of American College for 2 full decades, and it is during his time that the college reached its zenith. So on both these counts, I am going to request Mrs. Geeta to come and present a bouquet to Dr. Rees as a representative of Joyce. Thank you, Mrs. Geeta Pasani. I have no such problem with Professor Mani. We are delighted that Mrs. Mani is here. So she looks shocked. I request Mrs. Mani to come and present a bouquet to Professor Mani, because we did not find any other person who has a better right to do this honor. The next item in the program is to tell you why these 2 people have got the award they got. Okay, I have had the good fortune of being a student of Professor Rees and a colleague, and then a collaborator and a great admirer. Now, you may think that I have no such qualification when it comes to Professor Mani. That's actually quite misplaced. He has never taught me in a classroom, but exactly 90 years back to the date, S.N. Bose taught us in his historic mail to Einstein who is a teacher, and he wrote to Einstein, "We are all your students through your teaching." So, Mani seems to be a teacher whom I look up to, particularly when it comes to teaching and shaping students. And he has been almost my colleague for many years, because he has been in the Institute of Mathematical Sciences and CMA for many years. And the collaborator thing is, as of date, we don't have a joint paper. And he has still a lot of energy, and I presume I too have some energy left. So that is a thing for the past. But still, I think it will not be the most appropriate thing that I talk about Professor Mani and why he has got this honor, which is so richly deserved for many years. I have requested Professor H.R. Krishnamurthy from Bangalore to come and describe and talk about Professor Mani. Chris.
Professor Mani is simply the best teacher I have ever had in my life. So it's a fantastic privilege for me to be part of this function. So I should thank Simon for asking me to do this. And of course, I said, yeah, we have to do this. Okay. So I had the privilege of meeting Professor Mani for the first time in 1970 when I joined IIT Kanpur as a wide-eyed 19-year-old MSc student in physics. And by a great piece of good fortune, he was designated to teach us a 2-semester sequence of courses in mathematical physics. And the courses were just marvelous. I mean, he was bubbling with energy and enthusiasm, and the clarity of his presentation and exposition was just amazing. And it's a measure of the impact that these courses had on me. That, if I just close my eyes, the images of his classes are so well etched in my mind that I can just recall them even now, some 40 years later. The way he would kind of say something very profound and explain something and kind of pause for effect, and until all of us said, it was just an amazing experience for us to be taught by him. And in addition to teaching brilliantly, Professor Mani was a great mentor, taking an active interest in our growth, and a wonderful human being. He was very generous with his time, always available for discussions, and he made all of us feel special. I still remember with pleasure the encouragement I felt when he caught hold of a group of us who were doing well in the coursework and suggested that we skip the standard 2-semester sequence of electromagnetism courses and instead do a 1-semester course on electrodynamics course that the PhD students in IIT Kanpur were taking, thereby creating room for us to take another advanced course. And I did one on quantum many-body theory that was taught by Professor Ramakrishnan. So, it was clear that even at that time he was kind of always looking around, looking out for us and going that extra step to create new opportunities for us beyond the standard setup. And I also owe to Professor Mani my first taste of research work during the summer of 1971 when I stayed back in IIT Kanpur and did my science talent summer project with him. And all of you know that summers in Kanpur are not the pleasantest of experiences, but my interaction with Professor Mani and the experience of struggling to understand something that was difficult at first pass, the excitement of stumbling onto a discovery, something new, no matter how small, all of these more than made up for the sweltering heat of the Kanpur summer. And we basically discovered that summer that working backwards from an exact solution of non-interacting fermions in one dimension, you can construct solutions of the free particle Schrodinger equation in simplexes in various dimensions. In particular, in a triangular box, if you start from a 3-particle solution, in a tetrahedral box if you start from a 4-particle solution, and so on. And I had time to work out only the triangular case that summer, and then I got busy with other courses and went abroad, etc. But Professor Mani actually followed this up years later with some other colleagues, and then pushed the work to publish to a publication in 1982. And I'm actually very grateful that he lists this amongst his 10 most favorite publications. So thank you. And his advice also played a very crucial role in when I was, I had offers from several graduate schools, and I had to choose between, which one should I go, where should I go, and basically I relied on his advice and worked out well for me. So thank you again. The wise people in wisdom literature, they say that many things in life come as a package deal, and you got to take the good with the bad. But sometimes the package deal is all good, and the package deal with Professor Mani was Mrs. Mani, and this was and they used to invite all of us students quite often to their house, and this was like absolutely one of the high points of our life in IIT Kanpur. And they were both wonderful hosts, and the food was abundant and fantastic. And I still remember with fondness, I think I tasted watermelon juice for the first time in my life in Professor Mani's house. And it was just, so I should use this occasion to thank Mrs. Mani for all the wonderful experience that we had in their house. So, okay. Now, when the INSA Teachers Award was announced, that there was going to be such a thing, and like we were all asked to nominate people, I'm saying instantly, like some of us got together, the first name that came to my mind was Professor Mani. And I found that it was the same was the case in many of my friends. And so some of us got together and we decided to nominate. And several of my colleagues who took the initiative in this unfortunately cannot be present here. So I hope you will, I will actually read out some of the things that they wanted to say in the nomination that we put down for Professor Mani. Okay, so here's what Ashok Sen at HRI says. He says, Professor Mani has been one of the best teachers I have had in my life. Besides being an excellent teacher, he was also an excellent mentor. During my stay at IIT, he guided me through general reading materials in general relativity, particle physics, and quantum field theory, and in his mild but persuasive manner influenced me to go into particle physics and quantum field theory instead of classical general relativity, which would have been my choice for my graduate studies. This is a decision which I certainly do not regret. Given Professor Mani's status as a teacher and his influence over many generations of students from IIT Kanpur, I believe that awarding the INSA Teachers Award to Professor Mani will significantly increase the prestige of the award. So this is what Ashok Sen said. This is what Sandeep Trivedi from TIFR said. He said, Professor Mani was one of the most inspirational teachers I have had in my life. The interaction with him over the 5 years I spent in IIT shaped me in very significant ways, not only as a scientist, but also as a human being. He was a legendary teacher in IIT Kanpur. The 2-semester course he taught us on electrodynamics is one of the best courses I have ever taken. The lectures were clear and lucid, and the balance struck between emphasizing the fundamental concepts and working out enough examples was just right. Another thing he did was always to add enough material for the more interested students. For example, he would often discuss aspects of Feynman lectures with some of us and also suggest challenging problems. One remarkable quality of his was that he was always open to discussion with students, taking feedback on how his and other courses were going and incorporating this in his teaching. His high standards of integrity and dedication to science made a big impact on me, and I have tried to emulate them all my life. As I progressed through the 5 years, I took a few reading courses with him. In these, he was more hands-off, but always available for extensive discussions. The freewheeling discussions, in fact, turned out to be very useful and laid the foundation for my understanding of particle physics. As a result, when I entered graduate school in the US, I found to my surprise that I was better prepared than most others. Professor Mani has made it a point to keep in touch with me over the years. Writing letters occasionally, I have continued to benefit from his advice, which has always been helpful and perceptive. So that was Sandeep Trivedi. And actually Deepak Dhar, who was my classmate in my batch, took the initiative in actually doing the paperwork for the nomination. And he says, I was fortunate to get admission to the 2-year MSc program in IIT Kanpur for my postgraduate degree in physics and spent some very useful time there in 1970 to 72. There were many professors at IIT Kanpur who trained us and imbued in us the love for science and made us feel capable of achieving something. In fact, several students who passed out from IITK physics department are now senior faculty at many institutions in India and abroad. And it's fair to say that the role of IITK physics department in nurturing physics research in India has been very significant. Of course, the credit for this has to be shared by all faculty of IITK, and not one individual. However, when I try to recall my own impressions from that time, the first person that came to my mind was Professor H.S. Mani. He was a favorite teacher of most students in my batch, and this was because he was an inspiring teacher who made you like the subject, made you feel that the subject was easy and not pompous. He was encouraging but not satisfied with sloppiness. I would like to nominate him for the INSA Teachers Award 2013. It's clearly highly deserved, and in fact, I think it would be a rather tough benchmark for such awards in the future. So, and then he concluded by saying he could continue with more. He quoted some of the things that we had said and said the list of students Professor Mani has nurtured is much longer by about 2 orders of magnitude. His case should be a no contest. I am very happy that the INSA committees which looked at the thing agreed with our opinion and awarded Professor Mani the Teachers Award. So it's a fantastic thing. Okay. So I should not keep going because many other people I'm sure would want to speak. There are many more dimensions to Professor Mani's accomplishments than being a great teacher and mentor as a dean of faculty at IIT Kanpur, director at HRI, etc. I mean, since we are celebrating the Teachers Award, I guess, I need not go into these. But I just conclude by saying I see a disturbing de-emphasis on teaching in the higher education sector in recent times. And this was already gaining ground in the US, I felt at least. Maybe it might have been partly because I was spoiled by the kind of teaching we had in IIT Kanpur, but I felt that this is already gaining ground in the US when I went to graduate school, and it kind of seems to be somewhat well entrenched there now. And I kind of afraid that it has made inroads here in India as well. And young faculty these days are under enormous pressure to publish and are hardly rewarded when they do a great job of teaching. So I don't know whether Professor Mani was ever subject to such pressures, but all I can say is, thank you for being who you are and who made so great a difference in the lives of so many of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Krish. You have set a model which will be very difficult for me to follow because I have to follow you. This is really a great day for me because I have two of my greatest teachers on the dais, and later in the program, one teacher is going to honor the other great teacher, and this is not too many of you would have had this kind of a privilege. One teacher, the teacher who will honor is Professor Mugunda, and the the honorable teacher who will receive the honor is Professor Rees. When this nomination of Professor Rees for this award was made, when I read through the nomination, 2 thoughts crossed my mind. The first one was to see his achievements, that one person could achieve so much within one lifetime, was mind-boggling and also really humbling. And the second thought was, this Arinyar Anna in the early 60s had this slogan which changed the political history of Tamil Nadu forever. Ippadai Thorkin Eppadai Vellum. Should this army lose, which other army can ever win? So it appeared that this was really irrespective of how many awards are there, this should be definitely, this is a winning troop. Professor V. Srinivasan of American College and G. Srinivasan of Raman Research Institute made a significant contribution to this award, at least to the initial draft, by way of factual inputs. Then some of Dr. Rees's old students, Professor Bhaskaran, Professor Sridharan from PRL, and Sri Anand from IUCA wrote to the Academy, giving their own compelling reasons of why Dr. Rees is probably the most, why Dr. Rees is the fittest person to receive this award. I did not want to take anything for granted. I showed this nomination to some senior people, in particular Professor Rajashekaran, my senior colleague at the Institute, Professor P.M. Matthews, whom I am happy to see in the audience, Professor Rajashekaran also, and Professor N. Kumar. And very interestingly, the response I received from all of them were very similar. Here is a clear case for the Academy to honor itself. This was almost the uniform response I got. So, I am going to essentially read out from the nomination, and Dr. Rees's, the domain where Dr. Rees worked and the domain where Professor Mani worked are very different. Therefore, my speech will have to be necessarily very different from the line which Krish took, and that gives me some hope that I may not look all that bad. Because I can put the blame on the difference and not on the quality. By the way, Chris may look very young, but he was my teacher. No, he doesn't look, he is young, but I did my PhD under adult education. So there is no contradiction. He was my teacher in Indian Institute of Science. Now, you should understand a little bit about the historical background. You know, we are talking about 60s, early 60s, and when Dr. Rees is moving to India, before that he was a member of the technical staff of Bell Telephone Laboratories. In those days, Bell Telephone Laboratories had apparently one designation for all scientific staff, member of the technical staff. The other members, I understand, were John Bodin, member of the technical staff, Phil Anderson, Claude Shannon, the great John Pierce, and so on. It's an endless list of bigger and bigger names. So he left it, and listening to his inner call, he decided to become a missionary. And what was his mission? To teach postgraduate physics at American College. Well, he did not walk into a department and improve the teaching. Such a thing did not exist. You know, until 60, postgraduate teaching in physics was confined to Chennai and Trichy, probably, maybe Annamalai University was there. Majora College was the first in Madurai to start MSc program in physics. That was 60. American College started 63. One of the things I should tell about Dr. Rees, which probably others may not know, is his Tamil is very good. Okay, so don't talk behind his back in Tamil. You can talk in English, probably your accent is very different, you have small chance of surviving, but never talk to in his back in Tamil, you will be in trouble. So the words like Eppadiyavadu, and there's in South they use a word chumma. I don't find it being used in Chennai that frequently. In South there is a word called chumma. Eppadiyavadu chumma. This kind of a thing he uses very, very effectively. And Parkalam, the way he uses, I'm sure Kamaraj Nadar will envy him. Okay, yesterday I asked him something, he said, Parkalam. No, the same. So, now how did he pick up this Tamil? I mean, he really wanted to identify himself with the mission, so he came 1 year earlier. He did not just come and to teach, he came, he learned his Tamil, and he learned his Carnatic music, and it may come to us as a surprise that he has given even public performance in Carnatic music. Okay, so he did not want to start his mission eppadiyavathu, but in a very purposeful manner. Now, I think this way, this word eppadiya will be explained to many Tamil-speaking people like my children. And he was in American College till 93, but he formally retired as head of the department in 88. So, because he came from Bell Labs, where he was working on the emerging area of semiconductor physics, semiconductor electronics, when he came, he should have been under 35, obviously, and he had several patents to his credit. He brought the best practices of Bell Labs into a village college. He introduced what is called project laboratory. I think again you have to understand the context. It's everybody does project these days. You know, we are talking about 60s, early 60s, when American College is still part of Madras University. The university will not recognize these projects. This was not part of your standard curriculum, but still people worked on these projects for months together. I mean, I'm sure Jay Prakash, I can see him nodding. You know, this is something for which you will never there will be no mention of it in your university certificate, but people spend much more energy than they do now as a full semester project. I did not have great experimental skill, but I had two people have to do a project, you know. So I had a classmate, so either you have the skill or you should have the skill of spotting somebody who has the skill, you know. So I had a classmate by name Karpaya, I am sure Professor Rees will remember. Together, we put together a gadget and demonstrated nuclear magnetic resonance. Okay, it was a big news. UGC chairman came to see the thing. Many visitors came to see that. So this is a good occasion to tell you all people about my partner Karpaya. Dr. Rees, in preparing the department in the early 60s, I think in the early 60s, I can say without any fear of contradiction, probably American College had the best workshop in the country. And I am not necessarily excluding IITs. I am talking about middle 60s. He got all these things as gifts from Bell Labs. So really the best ones, which IIT would have had problem in importing, and he had the fastest oscilloscopes and all kinds of things. So in 60s, I can definitely say that, I mean, just to give you some benchmarks, he had American College had the best probably workshop. Workshop practice was compulsory for every student. Again, this will not be, I think you should understand it in the context that university will not recognize it. Okay, there was nothing like thing in the university anticipated in the university curriculum, but he had so much influence, you know, on the students. The students spent months and months producing some small piece of at least a nut and bolt. I mean, you take a piece of iron and create a nut and bolt on it. This is a minimal thing every student who passed through American College in the 60s and 70s had to do. He laid a lot of emphasis on laboratory, and And the emphasis on laboratory was so much, and the training on experimental skills was so much that people like Bhaskaran and Simon should be treated as prodigal sons of the department. I think they should not be treated as typical anticipated samples, but these are all kind of prodigal sons. There were batches where if there were 15 students, 10 will go to IGCAR, 4 will go to BRC, and 1 will go to TAFR, all into experimental programs. Okay, year after year this was happening because they were so skilled and prepared. And because Bhaskar and I could not go into any of these things, we became theoretical physicists. He also, photography was another compulsory practice. At least when I was a student, carpentry was also a compulsory practice. This is something, for some reason, I know for a fact that Dr. Rees did not insist upon during a subsequent period. But when I was a student, even carpentry was a compulsory practice. So he created all these experiments will not be some standard experiments. It will be usually some situation will be given, and you have to design an experiment. It's never a question of when the circuit diagram will be given with all the components specified. No, nothing like that. You are be given a situation, you have to design an experiment, your electronic circuitry and everything, and then you have to get the components from the store and implement it and make measurements. Well, I think if typically theoretically physics-minded person like me, probably I would have designed a circuit with 3.7 ohms. You know, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know these days, those days, for some strange reasons, which I never understood, the resistors used to come in 4.7, 47. Is that correct, Jayaprakash? Yeah, 4.7, 47. It always used, I mean, it can be 510, but it is 4.7. So when you want, you don't have this kind of a thing. Once Dr. Rees, in fact, this used to say it famously very, you do not hire a lorry to carry a vada. You do not hire a lorry to carry a vada. So this was his sermon when it comes to designing something. I mean, you have to choose appropriate thing. And he also used to say, don't ask for a cyclotron. You know, in those days, I mean, again, I am talking about 60s. These were all supposed to be, you know, Gadankan requirements kind of a thing. Another program that I should mention is he involved himself, PG students and PG postgraduate teachers, his department teachers, to do outreach program in some schools in Devagotai. Okay, I mean this, I never did really big experiments, so I don't think I ever went to Devagotai in his car. He will take his car, and you know, it was I think Premier Badmini. Huh? Yeah, Fiat. So I think this is, I think the number of people were at least twice its capacity, you know, this kind of a thing, and people will go there for the weekends, month after month, and essentially adopting some school. Yet he did it with great passion, and he also inculcated this passion in his students. He also established this physics club in Madurai. You know, this was very functional when I was a student. In 60s, apparently, it was very active. And when he himself was the president, and often he reviewed many new papers. When I was a student, it was still very active. So for students like Jayaprakash, this may be a news. I think by the time you became student, it had become defunct. But this really created a new culture in his emphasis was optics and electronics. Basically, physics instrumentation, laboratory physics. And I will just give you one indication of how his influence on optics research in this country was not just, I'm not saying just appreciated by his own students, but appreciated by the community across the country. Professor Mani told me yesterday that in 60s he knew that he was a man in a remote, the monster village of American Madurai, doing wonderful things in laboratory optics. Mani told me yesterday that he knew it even in the 60s. 70s, okay. Raman, but I will give you just some other evidences to that effect in that direction. See, Raman had many prized possessions. Okay, some of these possessions were priced in absolute standard because it's priced for everybody. It's diamonds. They are priceless. It was priceless for him, it's priceless for anybody. But he had other prized possessions. One of them was a Hilger quartz spectrograph and a plate measuring equipment that goes with it. This was one of his famous possessions. And the Raman Institute Trust decided that Dr. Rees is the person who will really make use of it. So it has lent it to Dr. Rees on a permanent loan. I mean, I think it cannot, the trust cannot gift. So it has lent it on a permanent role. And what did Dr. Rees do? He took away that plate measuring system and then it replaced it by modern digital system. It's functional. He made it functional. And in 88, when Raman birth centenary was celebrated, INSA and the Indian Academy of Sciences, Bangalore, jointly commissioned G. Venkatraman to write on the scientific biography of C.V. Raman. And I'm sure it's a very, very popular book, Journey into Light. That is the title of the book. And for that book, many of Raman's original experiments had to be recreated. Who was commissioned? Dr. Rees was commissioned to recreate some of these classic experiments of Raman, and the pictures that you see in Venkatraman's Journey into Light are pictures not taken by Raman, but later on recreated by Dr. Rees, and this you can find from G. Venkatraman's introduction, preface to his book. And it is during that time Raman Institute had Dr. Rees as a visiting professor at the institute. And again, around the centenary celebration, as a fitting way of celebrating Raman's legacy, Raman Institute commissioned Dr. Rees to create prototype of an optics kit. And this Dr. Rees did, and it was commissioned, and a commercial manufacturer has marketed it. Then Dr. Rees conducted several famous summer schools. This is not like the typical summer schools which are often done more like a kind of a routine or assignment or punishment. Only when he had a message to convey, he had a summer school. I remember at least 3 of them. One was SWAP 70, that was the thing where he introduced Fourier optics and matrix methods in optics, in geometrical optics for college teachers. So this was in 1970. In 73, there was a summer school when he had returned from, usually this will be after he returns from a furlough. Once in 5 years he goes back to America. That's part of the visa requirement. When he comes back, he will always have a message, and that will come in the form of a summer school. Seed 73, in 73, this was semiconductor electronics was introduced in the physics education in a major way. And 77, there was an optics UGC sponsored summer school where I was involved in a substantial manner. In fact, the effort that I put into that summer school to give some lectures, they will be reflected in my work even in the last year. I mean, my work in polarization optics or geometric phase, in some of my better known work, they can be actually traced to that effort. Now, I will tell you a little bit about this particular school. The idea, the thematic idea of that school is what is called sandbox interferometry. I mean, you know what is Michelson interferometer, but this is sandbox interferometer. You have a rectangular box of about 2.5 inches height, and you fill it with fine sand for 2 inches, and it is around that time that the cheap plastic optical components had become very somewhat popular in US. So he brought a lot of these things. So the students, the participants have to, each one has an interferometer. That means a tray with the sand filled to 2 inches. And then you have these, on mounts, you have these various gadgets. So now the list, there is no list count. You can continuously move. You can set, it came beautifully, Michelson, Michelson interferometer, Michelson fringes, Young's fringes, all kinds of things. And finally, the teachers took it home. So every teacher left the school with an interferometer. One cannot say that it did not exist. Okay, so I think with this kind of a general thing, now let me go over and do some specifics. Dr. Rees, when he, this morning I was trying to see how will I summarize his approach in one line. And I think it's a never-ending sequence of innovations. I mean, it was small innovations which led to big things. So, I mean, he entered into a college which has only undergraduate teaching. So he used, and he was allowed to recruit very few additional teachers, because that's what the university will allow. And he first concentrated on training or retraining the teachers. And I'm very happy to see that my senior colleague, Professor Manogaran Dhairyam, is in the audience. He will be able to certify on this. First, he concentrated on training the existing people by creating them opportunities to visit advanced schools like Indian Institute of Science, where he had very good contact, and IIT Madras and IIT Delhi, where K.L. Chopra was his personal friend. Professor Ramaseshan was his very close friend. Ramaseshan, E.S. Rajagopal, P.S. Narayanan, Suryan, and everybody of that age group, and so many people. So he used this thing to retrain them. And then he acquired a departmental library. I think this is something that I will have to tell you in some little detail. In 70s, when I was a student, I was a student of the American College from 70 to 72. In 60s and 70s, even now, it is probably one of the best physics libraries in the country. Okay, I mean, well, if I just say that, you will not believe. So I'll have to produce an authority. And at least I will produce an authority which will make Chris to believe. We had journals, physical review, reviews of modern physics, most journals of IEEE, all journals of Optical Society. And the college budget for library and laboratory will be probably a few thousand rupees, right? Now, you cannot obviously do it. IEEE and Optical Society, he became member, okay? So through membership, he can get things at subsidized thing, and he made some of his friends to enable it. and he will read it for 2 days. After that, they will show up in the library. So that's how we got all Optical Society journals, IEEE journals. And most of these, we found people who will sponsor the subscription. This is how we got really state-of-the-art lathes and vacuum system, everything under the lab. And he also got the libraries of some famous physicists, personal libraries of famous physicists, to be shifted into the physics library of American College. And one of them was a very physics teacher of great respect, and that was Professor Rees's father. He was also a physics professor. His library was a huge collection. I know which are the actual books because I was in charge of accessing those books. Probably Jayaprakash was a student at that time. Yeah. So, so it had an enormous, beautiful collection. Several times, Professor N. Kumar, you know, everybody knows that N. Kumar is a voracious reader, has requested me to issue books from American College Library. Okay, books which were not available in the Institute of Science Library or Raman Research Institute Library. Now, I should also tell you how this library works. You know, like how library and laboratory works, that you must know, because this is something that, see, normally college libraries are kept very safe. Never a book is lost because never the library is open. It's always under 1 lock or 2 locks or n number of locks. But the physics, I'm talking about not about the general library of the college, physics department library, his departmental library. This is open 24 hours a day, all 7 days of the week throughout the year, even during summer vacation. Now, you may wonder how such a system can work. It works. I have been not only as a student there, I was a faculty member there for many years. There is a register kept, and in the register, anybody can make an entry and take out book. Okay? And students run inventory once in a month. Is that correct, Jayaprakash? Once in a month, the students run inventory of the library. And you may think how books cannot be lost. Well, occasionally some books are lost. If one book is lost, student, after giving enough time, they replace it. They contribute and replace it. And very often it will be found that one faculty member, okay, when it need not be some other faculty member, it is always a faculty member who doesn't think that it is important to make entry in the book because he is just carrying it to the canteen. Okay? So, and then after the coffee, he leaves it at the canteen, the book does not return to the library. But books were never lost and library was always useful. This was true of laboratory also. There was no attender between the students and the supply. Supply was always open to all the students. You will find students working in the lab at 2 o'clock. There is nobody to supervise, nobody to give supply, nothing. You know where is the stock, you take, make an entry, work, and then make necessary entries in the log register. There was one fundamental rule. I think there was only one rule in the laboratory. That is, it is this is something that he brought from Bell Labs, and I think this is something that can really annoy him. And annoy him is not something that you want to try. And he was not like this. He used to look quite, Dr. Rees, you used to look quite fearsome in those days. So, you can do anything. Breaking something is not a sin. You can actually break an oscilloscope, but you must make an entry that what you did and what happened. And if something is not working and there is no entry in the register, then it is considered to be really not considered to be inappropriate behavior. One day, I think when I was a faculty member, one day I saw him, he drove by his car, parked, I think very urgently he went up. I was in the laboratory. And he went down. He had to measure something for very urgently. He went and took that instrument And of course, it was not functioning. He immediately opened the log register, it was not entered. And then he said, I hope I am not the first person to find this out. Which means I think he thought that probably somebody else already knew and failed to make an entry. So this was the only working rule in the laboratory. Within that rule, you can do anything. Breaking something is not a sin, but the the register has to be maintained. In a laboratory which is access by students 24 hours, all days of the year, it never had a concept of breakage fine. Of course, I mean, many people are come from IIT background and things like that. Probably there is no such concept. Is there a concept of breakage fine in IIT? I don't know. Ramani, I have not been in IIT. But in colleges, they are, in every other college. But here, this place never had a concept of breakage fine. Another thing I should tell you about Dr. Rees is that he had no secretary. This department with so much activity had no paid secretary. I think that's the proper thing. Mrs. Rees, and anybody who has been in American college will see Mrs. Rees, mother of 3 children, taking care of her husband. You will see her bicycling from Botton House to the department. And when I first joined as a student, after joining after 2 days, I saw some young lady hammering away very fast. There's some tape recorder will be played back and hammering, and then play back and hammering. There was this attender, Pichai Muthu. I asked him, and somehow he was very, very fond of me. I asked him, I did not even speak to him. I said, what is happening? And he said, Ayya, paranji vachittu poiruvaru, amma vandu araivanga. No, this is Pichai Muthu's description of what was happening. Ayya, paranji vachittu poiruvaru, amma vandu araivanga. So he doesn't have time, so he dictates, and all his correspondences were taken care of by Mrs. Rees. This is why I said, one person is missed most in this function, it is Joyce Rees. For students, and sometimes for young faculty members who were, not students, but not much more matured like I was for most of the time I was there, and she was really mother away from home. I'm sure, I think students who are here, everybody will uniformly agree, and there will be parties at home very frequently. At some stage, when I was a student, he had a poultry also behind. The poultry strength will go up, and then one weekend the strength will suddenly fall because half of them are now retired to the kitchen. And sometimes we will go on picnic, and she was always the host. And I think particularly for people from math science, I have to say that when Joyce gives a party at home, it's at her expense. I mean, these expenses are not expected to be shared. When I said math science, I meant old-time math science. So it was always at her expense. I mean, this was a great time of fun and games, all kinds of games. And at least one party you can always look forward to. There will be a Christmas tree party. And this is a very elaborate party. Dr. Rees used to set up a very huge Christmas tree and a party around the Christmas tree. And I can go on and on, but there's one more thing I should say, that as part of the teacher training program, he used to have, what is called faculty retreat. So usually we will retreat to Kodaikanal for about 10 days. And so that's a really glorious time. Good weather, usually in summer. somewhere in Kodaikanal, and Joyce Reese will be in charge of kitchen, and what more do you want? Good food, good time, good place to stay. And usually we'll take some topic and study it intensely. Everybody will be there. And sometimes we will re-evaluate our coursework. Sometimes you design a new course. Sometimes it will happen in Madurai itself. There is one thing, one of those retreat programs I should mention, because I always have had a grievance about this thing. This is in 72 summer. I have finished being a student, and it was for the college teachers. I think Professor Matthews gave extended set of lectures, maybe 30-40 lectures on quantum mechanics, and I have every reason to believe that these lectures eventually became Matthews and Venkadeshan book. I have finished, but this for faculty retreat, I wanted to participate, and Professor Harris was undergraduate department, told me that should be no problem, but then after consultation with the other faculty members, it was decided that student will not be allowed to attend. And I argued that I was no more a student, but the point is I was not a faculty member yet. So in those days, probably I should have been a little bit arrogant. So I thought, it's one person who will surely understand what Professor Matthews is teaching, and that person is not allowed to go in, kind of a thing, you know. So this kind of a grievance I have always carried around, this young age arrogance. And talking about arrogance and mischievous, I think as a student I believe I was not mischievous, but a few days after I entered, one day Dr. Rees, I heard him shouting from the other end, "No Kumbakonam." I was a raw villager. I didn't know what that word meant. I know Kumbakonam is a town. You know, this also should tell you how much he knows Tamil. Then I asked the other fellows, you know, he said, "No Kumbakonam, what does it mean?" He said, then they explained to me. Then I found that people who don't know Tamil know the meaning because it's in Oxford Dictionary. Not as the name of a place. Another of his achievement, I should say, I think this is a profound achievement. He had what is called the Department of Applied Science. This was in the 60s. Now he realized that this department had laboratory, library, skills of students and faculty members. Why not it be used for consultancy? So he started a Department of Applied Science, which was not funded by the government, not funded by any agency. It generated its own income. The major benefactor and beneficiary of this was places like Arvind Hospital and CMC, both Christian Medical College and Christian Medical College Hospital in Vellore. They had major work to do here in repairing their instruments. Sometimes, you know, it happens that you import, today it will be 5 crores, but in those days 5 lakhs instrument was a big instrument, and after 2 months it doesn't function. Can somebody fix it? And this is the kind of work that was undertaken. And this was an enormous success. I'm still talking about 60, not self-financing colleges were not known. You know, this is, today it may look, I mean, what is this? Non-funded things or government-funded things are there everywhere. No. Every college now has a, aided section and a self-financing section. Aided section till lunch and self-finance. So in colleges of a day, you know. But this is in 60s we are talking about. Here this applied Department of Applied Science, and as an offshoot of this Department of Applied Science, which itself Dr. Rees viewed as a outreach program, because this is helping anybody who has a skill. One day, I think this is not only once, at least once I remember, there was a young man. He came and asked Dr. Rees, is there any post vacant here? And in his own way, Dr. Rees said, well, I have no post, but I have jobs. If you can do a job, I have a job for you. For any number of people, I have job, but I have no post. You know, you understand what I mean. People are looking for posts, positions, which will get them salary because of what they did before occupying the position. Not jobs which will get them salary for what they do on a day-to-day basis. As an offshoot of this Department of Applied Science came what is called Jeevan Jyoti. This is an institution which is flourishing in Madurai, where physically challenged people are trained in the use of computers, and hundreds of such people have been trained, have been absorbed to important jobs. Okay, I think I can go on and on, but I know that that will not be a fair thing to do. So this morning I was asking myself, because I knew that I will have to speak, what made Dr. Rees to achieve in one lifetime things which, I mean, I have given only a very partial list, probably 40% of what he did. What made him, enable him to achieve so much within such a short time as 30 years? I think I have isolated a few reasons. These are not exhaustive, but I think I am reasonably sure this is, any list should include. One, I think, is his pedigree. I mean, he is not a jobless youth from America who came here for a job. I mean, he had a great position with great potential, and he could have made the best scientific career. He left it and listened to his inner call and came here as a missionary. So that pedigree, I think, is one reason. The other one is this strength of inner spirit. You know, he was working on a calling, a conviction. And the third reason, I believe, is Joyce Rees. I think she was a role model definitely for the girls who were students there, and how, I don't know how, I'm sure that many students would have, at least my wife always says that she found Joyce as a role model and tries to emulate. Basically, that Joyce is playing for the same team. I think very often spouses take it for granted, and I think it should neither be taken for granted, nor it should be assumed that the other spouse deserves it. So I think this is so Joyce Rees fully played for the cause, the same team for which Dr. Rees had dedicated his life. You may think that, in a place like American College where everything, your freedom is given, or doing this kind of a thing is not a great thing. I think this is not true. I think I want to take this opportunity because I know that the American College, the president of the American College Chennai chapter, the alumni president of the American College Chennai chapter is here, the treasurer is also here. I want to place on record my feeling about American College, because history often tends to be distorted. So the fourth thing that I will say, which enabled Dr. Rees to be what he was, is he took over his mission at the college in the right time. I have a feeling 10 years later, if he had taken, he would have found it much harder. This is the time when Professor Savarirayan was principal. This is the second decade of his principalship, I believe. He was principal from 49 to 69, is that correct approximately? 49 to 69, Dr. Rees moved into India in 61, so this is the last. Now, Professor Savarirayan was a remarkable person. He had, this is long before I became a college student, but I have heard a lot, and I have seen him at a distance. He was worshipping the same church where I worshipped in Chennai for the first few years after I came here. He had no what we call complex. He he was a person who thought, if the boys win the game, as a captain, I win the game. No, he never had the pressure that the captain must win the game. I think this is this is something that we take for granted. This need not be so. When Savarirayan was the principal, there were 2 bachelors in the college. In fact, 3 people I miss here who would have definitely gone. Arthur Harris, who was a confirmed bachelor. Bhaskar Abraham, who was Arthur Harris was physics professor, undergraduate professor. Bhaskar Abraham was zoology professor, confirmed bachelor, and G. Devarajan, he was economics professor. Now, these 2 bachelors were senior to Devarajan and senior to Dr. Rees also. They were virtually running the college, because that's how it's said within quotes. When in the last period of Professor Savarirayan, Harris and Bhaskar Abraham both were fantastic academicians. They were running the college. Somehow when the new principal took over, it had been put to him that you are going there as principal, but anyway those 2 boys are running it, kind of a thing. But this somehow got the better of the new principal who took over from Savarirayan. And it did ultimately act as the seed for many things. In 74, Professor Harris was hounded out of the college. I have chosen my word very carefully because I know what American College meant to him, and he became principal of Marthandan College, not because he got the opportunity. That offer was there for him for 10 years, but finally he had to leave enough. He had to. So, the point I am making is Dr. Rees started it at the right time, so that even during the difficult times of 70s, he could really carry through his mission. So I think that is why I was so keen that I should have several members of the Savarirayan family here, because I thought this is a time to celebrate the legacy of Savarirayan in American College. Now, I am also happy to see in the audience the senior awardees. This is the second batch of awards. The first batch, I can see Gautam, who my daughter, from the time she was small, she always calls him Einstein. Professor Gautam is here at a distance. And is Professor Subaya Pandi? Yeah, Professor Subaya Pandi is there. Professor Damodaran? Professor Damodaran is there. So this you have given me an opportunity to meet this. So I requested them to come and admit the junior awardees into their club, and they have come. I am very thankful to them. Now, I think I should not go on and on. I'm sure there are several other people who would like to speak about both Professor Mani and Professor Rees. Now, let me tell you what is the program for the rest of the day, rest of the function. The last part is response by the awardees. Okay. Before that, presentation of the award followed by our director's speech. So, Professor Mukunda will present the awards and give a speech, and after that Professor Balasubramaniam will give a speech, and then the awardees will respond. Before that, we have some time for whoever wants to speak, and I would like to set the ball in motion by, because I notice Professor Matthews right in front of me. I may request him to speak a few words. Professor Matthews, would you like to say a few words?
Professor Rees, Professor Mani, as well as Professor Balasubramaniam, Professor Mukunda, and all the audience. I'm not really an appropriate person to speak at this occasion, partly because I am so old that my memory has vanished, almost all of it. And about the American College, I remember the session of quantum mechanics courses. It was so long ago, but I really don't know much of what had happened then. So I don't have a lot to say. I really appreciate Dr. Rees because I knew also what he was doing in American College, but then again, I never got into the details of what he was doing. So I had only a very broad general picture, and much of what I know now comes from what he spoke today. As well as Dr. Mani, of course, I was well aware of what he was doing. But then again, from a distance, I had not interacted too closely with him, and so I don't have a lot to say about that either. Nevertheless, I'm happy that they have been honored as teachers of eminence, and it is appropriate that there should be such awards and that there will be more such people honored in the years to come. I think I'll stop with that.
Professor Matthews first. He was my MSc examiner and also my PhD examiner. I don't know, at least that much you remember, I suppose. Yeah. And Professor Rajshekaran?
I would first like to read a message which was sent by M.S. Swaminathan, founder chairman of the M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation. We had invited him also, and I thought he would come, but he's not able to come, but at least he sent a message. So it's just a 2-line message, I will read that. It's a message to me. Thank you very much for your kind letter. I am extremely happy that Professor R.P. Rees and Professor H.S. Mani have been recognized through INSA Teachers Awards. Please convey to them my congratulations and very best wishes. Now I want to I want to just say a few words both about both Professor Rees and Professor Mani. It's very brief, so Simon will not get angry, I hope. I want to keep it very brief. I am an old student of the American College, Madurai, for which I have a very high regard. It was the first institution that opened the portals of science to me. I studied there 60 years ago, 1952 to 1954, in what was called intermediate class those days. I am glad to see my classmate of those days, K.S. Ramakrishnan, ex-IAS officer and a very good friend of mine in the audience. He is sitting there. I did not know Professor Rees since I studied in the American College many years before his advent there. But I have met him briefly once or twice. But more importantly, I have heard about him from so many sources. All these give us the picture of a man who was devoted to the cause of education and achieved so much that he has become a legend there. Every time I go there, nowadays I go there more often for some reason which I won't have time to speak about, but everywhere I hear about him. His image is still there, and he has become a legend. His work converted the college into a true temple of science. I would like to say that INSA is only honoring itself by giving the Teachers Award to him. Let me next say a few words about Professor Mani. At Allahabad or Prayag, there is a confluence of 3 rivers, Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. It is called Triveni Sangamam. Everybody can see the 2 rivers, Ganga and Yamuna, joining together. For ages, people have been searching for the 3rd river, Saraswati, the river of knowledge. Finally, it was located in the form of the institute known as HRI, Harishchandra Research Institute, situated right at Triveni Sangamam. It was Professor H.S. Mani as its director who built it up to its preeminent academic status. About his earlier achievements in education, H.R. Krishnamurthy has already told you, and his second phase was this directorship of the institute, which really built it up to its present status. More recently, after he moved to Madras, he has been involved in many teaching activities at the Chennai Mathematical Institute, at the Science Academy's refresher courses, refresher schools at various locations, and also at the Sunday classes held at Chennai. I have been a co-worker with him in all his activities in HRI and also in his present phase at Chennai. And I congratulate INSA for its excellent choice of the Teachers Award to him. Thank you, Simon. Thank you all.
One person who would have definitely been in the audience and whom I would have most eagerly expected to come here. One person whom I would have really to be in the audience who could not be here is Professor Narendra Kumar. He is not able to come because of health reason. He is a good friend of Dr. Rees, so he has sent an email. There are many people who have sent messages. I would not have time to read all of them, but this one I have to. Professor Rees, this is a message from Professor Kumar. Simon, your email about the prestigious INSA Teachers Award awarded to Professor Rees and Professor Mani has brought great joy and warmth to my heart. I have had a brief interaction with Professor Rees while he was on a short visit here at the Raman Research Institute. I affectionately recall our discussion on optics and related experimental physics in general. It was at once clear to me as to why Professor Rees is so highly regarded and deeply loved by his colleagues and students alike. Professor Rees is indeed a teacher of science, but stated more precisely, he teaches science and not about science. This makes a big difference. Much as I would have been glad to come to IMSC and be present at the felicitation function being held in his honor on 12th April, my failing health unfortunately does not allow me to do so. Let me therefore do the next best thing I can think of. May I request you and Professor Mugunda to convey to our beloved Professor Rees my hearty congratulations and the best wishes in years to come. Now this discussions, interaction which probably Professor Kumar is talking about, probably should have been the basis. You know, Professor Kumar's tenure as Director of RRI is known for the amount of emphasis he placed in optics. He essentially resurrected or strengthened and resurrected the optics group. Probably this could have been the interaction he is referring to. Now I want to throw it open. Let me ask if any of the senior awardees want to speak. Gautam. Well, I think, see, I'm not, it's not a question on non-democratic. Gautam I know for a much longer time. My daughter, from the time she was small, she always calls him Einstein.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Let me first congratulate Professor Rees and Professor Mani for having gotten this award. Of course, we got the first award when it was done. I think all of us are here. This, I think, is a very nice award. I think it was instituted in the 75th anniversary of INSA. And today when Professor Simon asked me, I think today was the last day of our class, and I had a class at 8:30 in the morning, and then we had to rush and do something. I'm sorry I'm a little late for this. But what really made my day was after I finished my last class today at about 9:30, one of the students came to my room and said, "Thank you for teaching us." I think that's what we live for. And this was amazing. And so I think as teachers, we have done certain things differently. We have asked our undergraduate students to come and do research with us. A lot of them have published papers with us. They hold great positions. For example, the first project student I took in '96 is an associate professor at NCBS. And this is fantastic for me. I think this was one of my really proud moment. And whenever I'm in Bangalore, I do go and see her. So I think this is what that's what gives us, I think, to go on and on in life. I think all the other awardees also feel the same way. I wish Professor Rees and Professor Mani long interactions with students. I think this also keeps us very young in one sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gautam. Professor Pandi or Professor Tamodaran, you want to speak? Okay. I think the senior most member in the audience is probably Mr. Kantaraj. Do you want to speak, sir? Yes, you're a former student of American College, right? No. No, but still I think you are the senior most member, you should speak.
Quite frankly, I don't think I have the qualification to be called upon to speak. The only qualification I have is that my name is Sabari Ryan. I think that's the familiarity with Mr. Reeves. But I'm greatly honored to be invited to this great function. I thank Simon and all of you. Thank you very much.
Now, Bhaskaran.
Congratulations, Professor Rees and Professor Mani. Teachers like Professor Rees and Mani have touched the lives of several students. So I'm going to briefly tell an incident which is a sample. I'm sure there are scores of such incidents and individuals. It was in '69. I was going through American College in my old cycle with a dhoti, without chappal. So Professor Rees saw me at a distance and stopped me and asked me, what are your future plans? To be honest, I had no future plan. So I cooked up and told him that, sir, I want to become a demonstrator in a college. Then he looked at me and said that, you seem to have some momentum and you should do research. I said, okay, I will try. Then he said, do you know about Indian Sub-Science at Bangalore? I said, no, sir. Then he asked me, do you read English newspapers or do you buy them? I said, no, sir. So please read the newspaper around January, February. There will be an advertisement about research in IASC. So then, you should apply for fellowship and so on. So one thing, thing to me was that I listened to teachers very intently. So whatever they said, I followed. So I looked for the newspaper and looked at the advertisement and applied for a PhD. Then that changed my career. So I'm not alone. I'm sure many students coming from very different background have been benefited, starting from 1963 until Professor Rees was there. So I want to thank Professor Rees, and also it's amazing that this friendship, that started there, continues even now. Fortunately, I have a daughter who lives 50 miles from where Professor Rees lives in America. So at least once in a year, I see him there. So thank you very much, Professor Rees, for all the wonderful things you have done to us. And about Professor Mani, I have not, I was not fortunate like Krishnamurti. But once Rajaji arranged a very nice lecture by Mani when I was the faculty in Madras University on non-perturbative methods, instant-on calculus, and so on. And also, I'm very happy to see my teacher, Manoharan Dhairyam. He taught me optics, not Professor Rees. And he said how easy optics is, and it has been very valuable in my career. Thank you very much.
Before I call Professor Manoharan Dhairyam, I have to call Caroline. Now I have to give an introduction. Caroline called me 2 days back and said that you should give me at least 5 minutes. I said, Professor Matthews, even if he's in the audience, he will be given only 2 minutes. No, sir, but you must know I am your favorite student. I said, but do you think your classmates will agree with you? And she didn't say yes, her classmates will agree. I don't know if her classmate who is sitting nearby agrees. But whatever it is, she argued with me for 40 minutes. So finally I thought, I didn't have that kind of a time and I was under great pressure. So I said Parkalam. And she took it as Kamarajar Parkalam and not like Dr. Rees's Parkalam. So I don't want it to run chance. So I have to invite her. But 3 minutes? 4 minutes, okay. Madam, slow.
Warm greetings to you all. I bow before this august gathering to present a bouquet of verses to my most revered teacher, Dr. Richard P. Rees. I rejoice, O Lord, with gratitude and thanksgiving for the marvelous works over 4 decades past, pillared on thy strength, cemented with thy love, sprinkled with thy blessings, an epic engraved in the history of American college. Born in US, he flew across the globe to the small town of Madurai with the spirit of service and thirst to tap the potentials of students crossing creed and race. A proud salute to you, sir. Pioneer in higher education, excellent administrator, author of Autonomy in AC, architect of innovative courses, student flexibility and mobility, intermingled with education of quality, with undeterred fervor, tireless service, nurtured and nourished generations of students now scattered across the globe. Lively lab sessions, guiding and motivating, challenging and encouraging, entropy reductions too, part of the cycle. From lathe to laser, no CCD cameras then, mini red filter camera box to record diffraction patterns. Welding and cutting, grinding and polishing, from workshops to work tables, Master Rees, taught and trained, teacher and trainer, chiseled and polished, master sculptor, a salute of reverence to you. His master's voice, one picture is worth 10,000 words, reverberate in my classroom now. Indelible lessons engraved in my memory to enliven and illumine. Punctuated during the course, idli sambar parties, many in number, as the dhoti-clad professor strolled with a hearty laugh at the Barton House. Trekking on Kodai Hills from Rock Cottage, vivid shots keyed in my memory pad. A noble teacher never condemns a student. A monument of noble virtues, noble Dr. P. Rees. Heavenly teachers, rarest treasure, legend RPR, my teacher. My heart beats with joy, humbly to say, I am a teacher treading in your footsteps, sir. I could not contain myself at Madurai, so I flew over here just to say, thank you, thank you, thank you, my most beloved teacher. I plucked the stars and designed a crown, placed on your crown to shine a million times. I plucked the moon and slid into your heart to brighten all lives around. I tailored the sky to suit a canopy around, blessing to protect you and family, today and always. I kneel and beseech the sovereign King of heaven. Let your beautiful cherubims flap their wings around a dear teacher, guard and guide to cross the century along life's line to serve mankind. Thank you. My profuse thanks to Dr. Simon for giving me this space.
I stand corrected, Caroline. I should have agreed without arguing. And now, may I request Professor Manoharan Thairi.
Professor Rees, Professor Mukund, and Professor Mani, and Professor Balasubramaniam, the intellectuals of India. Thank you, Simon, for giving me this opportunity. I consider Professor Rees as a great man. for sacrificing his lifetime in the most southern part of India, Madurai, which acted as a springboard for a galaxy of students find places all over the world and contributing important things. Simon casually mentioned his fearsome sometimes. We used to call him a Genghis Khan because in his move, in his circular chair, he's always authoritative. And I appreciate his prowess of leadership. What is leadership? People think get a vote and go and sit in the parliament and make noise. I consider leadership is shows the way, and we have no alternative except to follow that way. I want to mention a few things. He introduced a novel idea of June repeat examination. What it means, after final examination, in a short time, a few months, the students are permitted to write the examination. It can pass or fail. Thereby, a year is saved. I consider it a great leadership because the whole of Tamil Nadu has introduced after several decades in the +2 examination where lakhs and lakhs of students are benefited. He showed the way and we had to follow it. And another thing, he introduced once idea of evaluating colleges sprouted in planning session in Kodaikanal with teachers. He invited, in that session, it was planned to invite the top people like Ramesh Seshan and Riaz Ahmed and another gentleman, I don't remember his name, to request them to come and evaluate the functioning of the American College PG department. And they give a good report, or sometimes identified some problems. It is an evaluation of the college. It took place several decades ago. The National Accreditation Committee was introduced several years later by the government in India, which evaluates the colleges and identifies them. There are so many things he led the American college. And his lectures are blended with jokes which students enjoyed very much. His another new idea is the skills class, where 2 teachers will occupy the students, and he is very stressing the art of communication in the skill class. Another nickname we have given to Professor Rees is Aladdin. Aladdin. Okay. Every faculty meeting, for effective communication, he brings overhead projector. Our faculty members will come and, oh, here comes Aladdin with his lamp to communicate. Professor Rees, I am greatly honored to talk to you about here on this day. Thank you, Simon.
Friends, I was not a student of Professor Rees, nor did I know him really well. All I heard from Bhaskaran was, there is a teacher of mine in Madurai whom you should meet. I was working in Delhi. I was an editor of scientific journals. So I came, barged into his room and said, I need your help. What kind of help? So we are running schools in my small town, 60 miles from Madurai, where I believe helping teachers teach better would help the students. He wanted to know my credentials. He asked me who you are. I said, I'm an editor. He tested my knowledge. He also checked whether I'm really the editor of the journal I mentioned before he accepted. Then he said, okay, we'll do it. Then I said every week, Saturday and Sunday are holidays, I will gather all the teachers. There are 4 schools, approximately about 40 teachers of mathematics and science. So you could come and help them. Yeah, they have a quota. You mentioned that. Okay. Because you mentioned it already, so I didn't want to do that. So he brought a team in his Jalapi, about half a dozen guys, including a couple of teachers. I think one of them was Srinivasan, who was the undergraduate professor, and some students. And whatever equipment they could gather in the boot of the car. So they came regularly for 8 days, I believe. 4 into 2, 8 days. And my difficulty was to assemble the teachers. They were refusing virtually why this guy should come from Delhi and trouble us on a holiday and so on. So I managed to bring them. Then 8 days, the first 2 days, they were very impressed. The third, fourth, etc., the teachers came, and the team, led by Professor Rees, was very helpful. And by the time my vacation was over, so I had to return. So I couldn't continue it every year. That was our fault. Had it been continued, it would have been even better. So all I'm telling you is, he's not only interested in helping his own students at American College. He was readily agreeing when I said we want to help school children some 60 miles away. He didn't mind it. And he used his car, his own petrol, his own time, etc. We didn't pay any of them a single penny, except, of course, we provided some food for the teachers and the faculty. Some tea in the morning and evening, and some food from a very ordinary restaurant. That's all we have in our town. So we had a wonderful time, and I do not know if he remembers my face now, but I remember it very well. Thanks to Bhaskaran, otherwise I wouldn't have known about this man. I wouldn't have invited him, and my teachers wouldn't have benefited. Thank you very much, sir.
I don't want to leave an impression that the old man is calling only old people of his generation. So, I think some students must be given an opportunity before. What's your name?
Ramadas is my name.
Which batch?
Yeah, I will just take 2 minutes. I was a student of Professor Mani in IIT Kanpur, and I speak for more students like me and Krishnamurthy. I just want to remark on one particular aspect of the way that Mani interacted with us master students. That was to introduce us to really cutting-edge research through seminars and expository series of seminars, and he sort of took it for granted that those of us who are doing better in the master's program would be part of the audience, and it really encouraged us to learn these things at a very precocious stage of our careers. I mean, so that way I got introduced to, the theory of solitons when it was just being worked out. The papers of Wu and Yang on geometric faces, Professor Mani and Professor Tulsidas ran a seminar. At the time I was a master's student, and when Krishnamurthy came to give a seminar there when he was a postdoc in the US, it was encouraged that master's students would go and attend, even though we understood very little of what he talked about. So the point I'm trying to make is that we were introduced to really what was going on right then, in Kanpur. And so this brings me to the other thing I wanted to mention, talking about Professor Rees, the words that were chosen was calling, and I think it is a sense of calling that brought Professor Mani and others of the generation from the United States and other top universities to Kanpur, and he himself looks up to Professor Kelkar a lot, I know that. So I just wonder what it was about those times that brought together this bunch of people. Looking back, they were shockingly young, even though at that time Professor Mani looked already like he is now. He is ageless. I mean, he doesn't change. But at the shockingly young age, to Kanpur, which, I went there from verdant Kerala, and I found it was really shockingly, different. And these people had come all the way from around the world to that campus, which was built in the midst of nowhere. And, it was really a magical experience. And they also made, I guess, great sacrifices, and generations of students benefited. We didn't know how lucky we were. Now I know very well. Thank you. Yeah.
Dear friends, actually of the 4 people in the days, 2 of them I know very personally, 2 by reputation. I did my doctorate in TI for taught in fundamental research. You can't get away without knowing and hearing the greatness of Professor Mani and Professor Mukunda. So my respects to them. And Dr. Balasubramanian was my senior at TIFR. And of course, we are more of a family, playing bridge together and running around the hostel. And I don't know whether Professor Rajshekharan remembers me as a friend of his student, Dr. Ramachandran Baji. When I come to math science, 50% from TIFR, another 25% from other sources, then 25% was missing. Then I suddenly realized that they're all from American college. So all my experience, exposure, the diverse thing, the base was from Professor Rees. Actually, I would say, we always think Professor Rees and Professor Harris as a combination. As a teacher, they taught us a subject and also grew us so that we can face the world very comfortably and confidently. Many of my friends here who proved their worth in their own life will vouch for it. Like Simon, I am also more of a theoretical person. Maybe in 74, I had to choose between IIC Bangalore and TIFR. If I had met Rees, maybe I would have gone to IIC Bangalore. Unfortunately, it was not in station. But the research that I took, that's again because of him, I would say. He had the physical review on which I did a project, which was a paper by Professor Jha. Eventually, I did research in that under him. So I thank you, sir, not only for but as a teacher, for showing us, even today, we would like to flock around him as this 20 or 17-year-old children, which we did about 14 years back when he came here. We would like to do it again. Hope, as all of you have pointed out, as teachers, such more teachers crop up, because nowadays that percentage is very small. Let us hope that more and more such teachers come up. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Ravindran, Dr. T.R. Ravindran. I work in IGCAR Kalpakkam, Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research. I am from 84 to 86, PG Physics. So, the PG Physics department and life in American College was a turning point for all of us. That is for myself and my classmates. I am sure all of us can vouch for that. In fact, Professor Rees encouraged all of us to do PhD research. And as a result, I am happy to, of course, Professor Rees knows, inform all of you that 5 out of 6 of us boys in the class are PhDs. 1 from TIFR, 1 from IASC, and 3 from IIT Madras. And the 6th one is a senior scientist in BIRC, training award-winning, Olympiad-winning mathematics students. So he is a trainer. Professor Rees treated us like grown-ups. Of course, we were very young, just out of BSc, and we were very young people, and he treated us very nicely. The freedom that he gave us, students, young students, and his faith in us developed our confidence and inculcated responsible behavior from us, in us. As Professor Simon has already mentioned, the library was run by us. It was managed by us. And Professor Rees, he encouraged us to use computers. It was very novel thing. You know, computers were quite a novelty in year 1984. But he was particular that we should use computers for our projects. So, in fact, one of my classmates, Raju, is there. He was telling me that even he encouraged us to modify the computer in whatever way we want. just even drilling holes into the backside of computer and taking out leads and do whatever you like, whatever is necessary for the project, do it. Like that. In fact, he brought Apple computers to our college, Apple II. He taught us, you cannot believe, I mean, we did not believe at the time when he entered a class and told us that we will be writing at the end of that hour a computer program. He taught us computer programming, basic programming. He said, at the end of this hour, you will be writing a program. We did not believe. But at the end of the hour, we were really able to write simple programs for addition, division, all these things, and we were comfortable. We lost the fear or, about computers. We really started loving computers. We knew the potential of computers from Professor Rees. There is a saying that you can count the number of mangoes in a mango tree, but you cannot count the number of mango trees in a mango. In fact, I feel all of us, Professor Rees's students, are mangoes from the big mango tree that is Professor Rees. Thank you, sir, for everything that you have done to us. Thank you.
Mr. Shanmugasundaram, President of the Chennai chapter of American College Alumni Association is here.
That's the only qualification why I'm here. And I'm very happy that one of the teachers of our alma mater is being honored. And I see the effect of Dr. Rees on many of the gathering. I never did science after my schools. I did English and then law, and I'm a lawyer here. I congratulate both the teachers, Dr. Rees and Dr. Mani, and thanks, Dr. Simon.
I'm 89 PGB 10. I'm Saraswati. Actually, I think probably I am the last project student of Rees. I had an opportunity to do 2 times both project work under him, because I told, he was a teacher for me in digital electronics theory course. So at the end of the course, he asked me whether I think probably all of you understood the book Gaur and then digital electronics taught by me. So I don't know, I was little notorious, so I just stood up and then I told that, sir, I did not understand. It was the last class, so he could not understand why I told like this. Then he called me and asked, I told then I don't like electronics. The next day every teachers were running and saying, who is the girl who told against Rees? That is who is telling that. No, A.R.B. Robson, now he is HOD of physics. So he was telling, who is Saraswati? Who is Saraswati? He was coming and asking. Then I told that I am the one who told like this. To my surprise, then the second year, because we students used to go and write in the board. That is, who chooses, who is the guide. So first, the first rank student get the choice. Usually first 3 students, they will write the names, and I was a 4th rank student. But Professor Rees chosen my name. That is, Saraswati has to be guided by me this time. So my name was already there. When I went, then they told that, no, your name was written by Rees. So I was working on digital electronics, but I don't like, so I was telling, no, something I have to do with optics. Then he has given me that study of chaos, dripping faucet. So, for both time, I could not succeed my research. Both the project failed, but I got the first rank in project. All the time when I present, I get the first rank. I used to work from morning 6, but still I could not get. So every teacher used to say, you are working, but I did not get at all. But I could finish off the project only after the second year. So I finished off second year, but I stayed back in hostel and I finished, and I went to Kodaikanal to show him that I finished the project. So he was with Joyce Rees, and then I went, and then, so I was very happy. I am proud. Even now I feel, because I am an associate professor in Sastra University, So whenever I tell to my student, when I am harsh, I used to think that I have to be compassionate like my professor. So I really thank you, sir, because even from normal things like when first time when I see, I was from a village. So Reese was walking, and then he took all the dirts, the papers and all, and then he puts in the pocket. So till now, I really don't have the feeling. If you see my bags, everything, all the dust will be there only. So in the home only I have to, because I can't say anywhere. So if somebody throws away, I used to tell, please take it. So I have this habit, and then it's inculcated by Professor Rees. And one day he asked, do you know how many blades the helicopter has? Then I told, I don't know. Because that was because of during the project, because I was doing on chaos dripping faucet. So I have to see the timings between two drops. So he was asking me that, then I told that I don't have. Then he got so angry. How come a lady of MSc who cannot know how many blades in helicopter? Then he asked whether it is odd or even. Then I told, that time also I don't know. Because I never see movies also, and I really did not see helicopter also. So that time a person came to my rescue, VS, Professor VS. Actually they are like my father and mother to me all the time, because sometimes Rees used to be little forcible and arrogant, but all the time in my life, because I think I am the last student of him, but even now I stood in science because of him. All the failed project, I never even left it. Even I went to IGBMC France, and whatever left there, I could not finish up the project, but still I take and work, because I know that it's workable. That knowledge came from Professor Rees. And then the passionate thing, that is like Professor VS, I have to remember now, because he also holds the key. Because whenever I'm afraid of Rees, he used to come. No, she's a village girl, you have to think, and then Indian villages, they are like this, and then so I had an opportunity to thank, and I'm really proud of being here. Thank you, Professor Simon. Thank you, sir. And one more thing I want to say, even I got a fast track award 2 years back. So when I sent a mail to Professor VS, as usual he forwarded to Rees, and then he also mailed me saying that really good, because he got a position in US at that time. One day I remember that in applied science, because I was waiting there for a person to open, then he was saying scientists should never wait for any technical person. Until now I remember that. So whenever I wanted to do science, I will think whether technical problem will come or not. So that aspect I am really happy about that, and I really take care in that aspect, and then I guide my students. I have 3 students, and all of them, they know Professor Rees' name. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Somebody by name Neil called me sometime back, claimed to be the last student.
Maybe. I am 89 PGP 10.
Oh, then you are not the last student. Yeah, because Dr. Rees contributed not only to the building of American College. I know for a fact that he should have contributed a lot to the building of Lady Luck College, which is the sister college for, well, I don't know whether you call it sister college or sister-in-law college, but typically, if you work in American College, your spouse works in Lady Luck College, a good fraction. So I don't know whether you should call it sister college or sister-in-law college, but in any case, I'm sure the former principal of Lady Luck College, Professor Santi Manuel, I see that I think she'll have something to say. Would you like to speak?
I'm Shanti Manuel, former principal of Lady Doak College, Madurai, and I stand here on behalf of the college to congratulate Dr. Richard P. Rees. He richly deserves this award, and I count it a privilege that I was able to be present on this occasion to see him being rewarded. I would also like to congratulate Professor Mani, because I'm one who has a passion for teaching. I taught when I was a principal throughout all those years. So I'm happy that teachers are specially honored. And I would like to see more teachers like Dr. Rees and Dr. Mani. Now, I want to say that our physics department of Lady Doak College, Madurai, benefited richly by Dr. Rees's presence in Madurai and in American College. I always thought of American College as a brother college for our college. And Dr. Rees's students, especially one Dan Rita and one Beulah, both his special students, enriched our department of physics that today it's a center for research. And I think it was all due to the encouragement and inspiration given by Dr. Rees. The other department which was blessed because of Dr. Rees was the mathematics department, because very early we started the special BSc mathematics and with special computer applications. So as early as 1984, when we began the computing center, as he would like to call it, and Lady Doak College, Dr. Rees was very much the moving spirit behind it, who inspired our teachers and who inspired me to start it. Apart from this, he was a member of our governing council and our board of directors for all the time I was principal there, and a very encouraging presence at the council meetings, a very enlightened member of the council who always encouraged me to go forward academically in the college. So much so that we became one of the first 12 colleges to become autonomous in India, along with American College and other colleges. And when we were becoming autonomous, again, we owed a great deal to the discussions that I could have with him. So today, I would like to congratulate him and thank him. And I would also like to thank Joyce, because their home was home for me, especially during holidays. I came from Calcutta, but during Christmas, I always had a welcome home in Dr. Rees's home. I would also like to mention, on behalf of the Inter-Church Service Association, which I served after I retired from Lady Doak College, Dr. Rees was the moving spirit behind bringing the Jeevana Jyoti, which was a special place for physically challenged students to learn computer science and to learn computer programming. And all of them have been placed in their time when Dr. Rees was there. So I want to thank Dr. Rees on behalf of INSA also. Thank you, Dr. Rees.
We are running already about 20 minutes behind schedule, but I don't want to stand between anybody and the awardees. So keep your remarks to less than a minute. So you want to, after that you can speak, but please keep it within a minute.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Venkatesh, BSc and MSc from American College. I joined much later than Professor Rees. I had left the college, but all the legendary stories of him stayed back. And it's an honor for me to, as a token of small appreciation, I want to present to Dr. Rees.
Do it slowly.
And since there are so many teachers, I am reminded of a Sanskrit slokam. I would like to say that Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Mageshwaraha, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. And we say Acharya Devo Bhava. All you teachers are gods for us. Thank you very much.
I am Caroline Michael from Madras Christian College. I am extremely happy to stand here. Dr. Rees was my professor and head of the department during my MPhil in American College between 1981 to 82. I vividly remember 2 occasions when he asked questions in my project work. Even now I remember he asked a question from tensor and I could answer it. And another thing I remember, his home was an open home and we were involved in choir and we were having the practice one evening at his home when Mrs. Joyce was hosting us. And it's really a wonderful privilege to be a student under him. And he gave a very nice credential for me when I took up the job. at Lady Doe College, and my principal, Miss Shanti Manuel, is very much here, and she gave me the first appointment. So it is almost a transfer from American College to Lady Doe College. Thank you for the privilege, Dr. Simon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I joined TAFR in 1986 as a research scholar. I have heard a lot about Kanpur IIT, and I have heard a lot of engineering students wanting to shift to physics and learn electrodynamics. Now I know the reason. Professor H.S. Mani, he is among us. Before I go and tell you how I reached TAFR, I want to tell you about very shaking incidents in my life which took place along with Mrs. Rees. This was in the time 1984 when that unfortunate incident of assassination of Mrs. Indira Gandhi took place. We were in the college and the news had come, and Professor Rees was not around sometime. So there was one of my classmates, Christiana Mary Jacqueline. Myself and Christiana went to Professor Rees' house to meet him and tell him the incidents has taken place and the city is in turmoil. At that time, we met Mrs. Rees, and she asked Christiana, "Where do you live?" So she said, "I live in Tirunagar." If you know about geography of Madurai, it is a bit far off, about 10 kilometers from American College, and has to go through the city. And I lived in the other side, about 5 kilometers in Pudur. So Mrs. Rees said, "I will drop you there." She took the car, of course, the same Fiat car. We drove across Madurai. We could reach up to near Madura College. And on the top of the bridge, we were stopped by some vandals. And some of them even were dancing on the bonnet until they saw Mrs. Rees, and she was shouting. In fact, she was shouting with so much of courage, and I was shaking. What is going to happen next? And seeing her there, probably they didn't expect a lady driver or whatever reason. They all got down and then stood on the side staring at her. She simply drove further. And to a point where we could see many people walking towards Tirunagar, she left both of us with them. And I could go further down with Christiana and left her with someone whom both of us knew. And I returned back to Pudur. This is one incident where I have learned how to be courageous in front of an unruly mob. Involvement of, personal involvement so much for the students. That's the key. Thank you very much, Professor R.S.
Thank you, Simon. Simon mentioned some time back, as a remark of Rees, no Kumbakonam here. Actually, I'm going to do that because I'm from Kumbakonam. Now, it so happens the three gentlemen, except my former director, Balu, had an interesting role around 1980 in my life. What happened was Professor Mukunda took Professor Simon as a student around 1979 and the faculty improvement program. And I was finishing my PhD around that time with Professor Matthews, and I was looking for a job. And it so happened, Professor Rajshekharan recommended there is a job available in Madurai American College. Why don't you go? Okay, let me try. And then I went to think, and that was the only occasion I met Professor Rees. And it was a great occasion. It was about 2 hours of interview in the sense that I should give a lecture for the students. He was happy with me, and I was also happy with the college. And immediately said that, "Are you interested in joining? I will give you right now." Then I was shocked because I never had that kind of a chance to decide. I said, "Okay, I will decide and let you know after 2 days." It so happened that I had also written to Professor Mani and Professor Ramachandran from Kanpur IIT that I would be interested in postdoctoral position at Kanpur IIT. And I also got the same letter on that day. And I had to decide whether to go to Kanpur or to Madurai. And my friends and many people advised me a postdoctoral position would be good for you for your research career and continuing teaching later. And I did make a choice at that time. And in principle, I don't regret it. I'm very happy about it. But it definitely didn't give me the chance to interact with Professor Rees
month later, but Professor Mani was there after I went to Kanpur, and it was great because as many of the students of IIT Kanpur would vouch for it, I had great interaction with Professor Mani and several other people, and I'm very happy to have made that choice. And I congratulate both of them for this great honor which they have received. Thank you.
This is a friend of Dr. Rees and his family for decades. So I would like him to say a few words.
Everybody talked about Dr. Rees, but I'm going to talk about Dick, because that's how I called him. I ought to have met him in '72. There was one meeting had been arranged. My wife and I were going to meet him, but a road accident near Ulundurpet, stopped us going further to Madurai, and it completely changed our lives. Then you are all talking about his administrative skills, his love for physics, all kinds of things. But I have to talk about his love for Madurai, which, I have love for Madurai. I wrote a book, My Madurai, and somehow he heard about it or he saw it, and he desperately wanted to buy a copy. He knew me, and I have known about him a lot through Srinivasan and Peter Jayapandian, and through my brother Divakar. So he sent to my publisher, who was a very sleepy publisher. He didn't even respond. So he sent a letter to the printer's email, and the printer sent the email to me. And then I wrote to him, and he asked me to send 4 copies to his 4 friends, being typical Rees, because he always thinks about others. So from that time onwards, we have been corresponding. And I have to say one thing. I half finished a letter to him about my working on the university building. I was doing the drawing at that time. And that half finished letter, I went to sleep to finish it the next day. And that night, my wife passed away. And I sent a copy of that unfinished letter to him. He may not remember it. So I have such lovely memories of him. And amazingly, though we have been good friends, I met him only about 4 days ago. And I feel very blessed to have finally met him before my time. Thank you.
I know that there are dozens and dozens of students of Dr. Rees who want to speak, but we are already behind the schedule by an hour. So I would like to apologize to all of them that they can speak to him after the function. After the function there will be a lot of time. There is a banner outside, and after the function they can also take pictures with him. I will suggest they do it in front of the banner. The banner is, I have put up the banner specifically with that purpose in mind. So therefore we will now move on with the other part of the program. Well, now is the real big part of the program, where the awards will be presented. Professor Mukunda will present. These awards are normally presented by the President. On an earlier date we had fixed. President was not in the country, so President requested Mukunda to do it in his place. But then that date was changed. We did not want to check whether the President was in town at the present time or not. So we do not know the answer to that question. So we requested Professor Mukunda to do it even though the date is changed.
Professor Rees, Professor Harihara Subramani, Professor H.R. Krishnamurthy, and friends. It is a privilege and a pleasure for me to be present at this special event today to honor two of our exemplary physics teachers. I must thank Professor Raghavendra Gadagkar, President of the Indian National Science Academy, for asking me to represent him and to represent INSA at this function. As Professor Simon said a couple of minutes ago, originally Professor Gadagkar had agreed to be here himself for the presentation, but due to various commitments and uncertainties, he could not come. So you may say, I am grateful to those uncertainties which have made it possible for me to be here on his behalf. It was mentioned earlier that the INSA, Indian National Science Academy, the INSA Teacher Awards were instituted 2 years ago in 2012. That was the first year they were given. These awards cover all the areas of science and engineering represented within the academy, and each year up to 10 awards can be given. The idea of these awards itself came from several members of the INSA Council probably 3 years ago. In spite of the general feeling that standards in science education and even interest in science are slowly getting eroded, it is heartening that there still are a few truly dedicated and inspiring teachers in our colleges and universities across the country. And the INSA Council felt such teachers must be recognized and honored for their outstanding work. This would, in a small way, improve the level of respect for teaching in general in the country. In our own student days, this respect was certainly there. And pretty much every one of us, certainly of my generation, remembers with fondness and gratitude individual teachers who inspired us and made a major impact on our minds. Very simple people, very dedicated people. Today, we are honoring two outstanding teachers in physics, Professor Richard Rees and Professor Harihara Subramani, for their immense contributions over several decades. I must emphasize, each of them has been a teacher of physics for more than about 50 years, if not more. The numbers of students whose lives they have touched are immense. Others here, Professor Krishnamurthy and Professor Simon, have described their careers in great detail. I can only say that I hope the standards set by them will inspire others to try to reach their heights. So, and by honoring them today, I feel INSA itself has set standards for these awards which we must try to maintain in future years, even if it will not be easy. So congratulations to both of you on behalf of the President of the Indian National Science Academy, Professor Raghavendra Gadagkar, and on my own personal behalf. I have been, in the best sense, a jealous admirer of both of you for many, many years. In particular, Professor Mani continues to be active and devoted greatly to the activities under the 3 science academies, education programs, along with Professor Rajashekharan, himself a product of American College. So, thank you, Professor Simon, for planning and arranging this function with the support and assistance of your institute and your director, Professor Balasubramanian, and conducting everything so tastefully on behalf of INSA. I am sure you will send a full report of this event to INSA as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Request Mr. Shanmugasundaram to present, to put a shawl around on Dr. Rees, and Mr. Ramakrishnan IAS to garland. Now, I request the director to present Dr. Rees with the memento on behalf of the institute. I request Mr. Rajashekaran to present a shawl to Professor Mani. And Professor Shanti Manuel to present him a garland. Thank you, sir. Garland him. Thank you. Our director, Professor Balasubramanian, will present Professor Mani a memento on behalf of the institute. I request Professor Balasubramanian to speak a few words.
Dear friends, I am happy to be here, to be able to participate in this joyous occasion, to felicitate two great teachers whom INSA has recognized. I am in one sense an odd man out of not knowing about them during those periods for which this award has been given. And in fact, about Dr. Rees, I came to know only maybe a year or a year and a half back, when Professor Simon came and talked to me about the idea of nominating him for this award. And it is then since I knew the name and since Professor Simon has already talked, therefore then I talked to the friends and I realized how one person, having come from United States to Madurai, have been able to achieve an amount of work in education, an amount which normally a person would need 2 lifetimes to achieve, of developing a scientific temper in that area and explaining what physics is, both the theoretical and the experimental aspects, and having brought a small, what was still then a small college into the map of physics studies. Now regarding Harihara Shankar Subramani, again I came to know of Professor Mani only around 1990s, when Professor Mani took over as the director of what was then called as the Mehta Research Institute. And since I have not heard the name before, therefore I just inquired, who is the person who has been appointed as a new director of MRI as it was known at the time. And that's how, when I came to know of how great a teacher he is, and how generations of students have been indebted to him, and the generation of students are in very high positions who all owe their success to Professor Mani. And since this is one aspect where I do not have a personal knowledge, where I have only heard from people about his greatness, even though this award has been given for that purpose, I will not touch upon that area aspect. But I will touch upon that aspect which I know well, how he developed the Harishchandra Research Institute, something which was alluded to by Professor Rajsekharan in his lectures. There is again, even Harishchandra Research Institute was not again a known name at all before 90s. Not anybody knew, and it somehow wanted to nurture mathematics there, even though as on today, of course, the physics group there is much, much stronger than the mathematics group. And therefore, since they wanted to really nurture the mathematics, it was given to the National Board for Higher Mathematics to find out a good director. And they made a couple of attempts, at least one attempt, which nothing came out of it. And it is in 1990 that Professor Mani, when he took over as the director of HRI, that was the period in which the institute started to grow day by day. And part of the time again, at least in 2000, in 1990, Professor Ramchandran also took over as the director of this place. And since Professor Mani and Ramchandran knew each other from the Kanpur days, and therefore these two institutes really behaved like sister institutes. They were in all contact. And that sort of gave me a good opportunity to see Professor Mani in action. And I would simply say that he has sort of made a benchmark of how a good director should be, that if you can achieve 50% of what Mani has achieved, then you can boast yourself as a good director. And once when I became a director of this place, I really took Professor Mani as a role model for me of how I should really run this place. I really do not know whether I have even achieved 10% of what Mani has done, and that is a real role model for me. And I would definitely think that in the last 60 years, of the existence of the Department of Atomic Energy, and particularly if you are now looking at the aided institutes and the various directors of the aided institutes, Mani ranks far higher than any of the directors of the aided institute, beating the second one by a heavy margin. And then now I happen to go to, both of us are in the HRI Governing Council. The same MRI is now called HRI now. And therefore we have a lot of time to talk about various things. And even today I could clearly see how he is interested in the education, what he really wants to do in CMI, Chennai Mathematical Institute, how he wants to develop the physics in the Chennai Mathematical Institute, what is the amount of work which he wants to do for the schools, particularly the Tamil medium schools, the municipal schools in Chennai, and he has a lot of plans and so on. And I would just stop with the last remark. I was the person in charge of this particular region in this for this Allahabad Academy, what is called convener maybe, and I was there for 4 or 5 years, and the Academy never received any report of this particular sector from me because nothing really was done. And around 3 years back when we met in a certain academic meeting of this Allahabad Academy, they suggested that can we request Professor Mani to be the convener of this region. And the first my reaction was, how come it took you such a long time to realize that I would definitely be not the best person to be there, and Professor Mani is the best person to be there. And they were so happy, and they made Professor Mani. And now, as soon as he became, then with the Professor Rajsekaran, he has started plans of having various lectures at the various parts which are arranged by the Academy and so on and so forth. I mean, I cannot imagine such an activity, such an enthusiasm for teaching in these years, and I really salute you, sir, for such a great thing. And thank you very much.
Now we come to the most important part of the program, the response by the response by the awardees. But before that, the photographer suggests that the awardees should come to the forefront and take pictures with the awards.
Well, I have been an extraordinarily lucky person in my life. You know, I've had a place like IIT Kanpur to work, people like HRK who came to study, and when he went to Cornell, and when we get a letter from the head of the department saying, if you have more students like him, please send. And we wrote back saying, where do we get such students? And that is how it was for us. And let me clarify and expand a little bit more. I feel very honored and privileged that when Deepak Dhar wrote to me saying that these 4 names which HRK mentioned had suggested, I felt extraordinarily humbled that such people whom I consider have reached the highest points in research should consider me. And for all the kind words he said, and I would also like to thank Deepak Dhar, Sandeep Trivedi, and Ashok Sen for what they had written about me. IIT Kanpur was a very special place for many of us. The first thing was that even though there was physics department, aeronautical, electrical, chemical, and so on, we all interacted a great deal. I learned from mechanical engineer Ashok Malik a great amount, and from chemical engineers how to deal with thermodynamics, from aeronautical engineers how to deal with fluid mechanics, and mathematicians, of course, were there who would tell us a few extra things which we did not know about generalized functions and so on. And that was a fantastic time for all of us. Then we also had the advantage of people visiting us, which Ramadas did not quite mention. I think Balachandran was there when you were there, and Mukunda came and gave lectures on constrained mechanical systems when Sam had come, and Sam had ultimately worked with you on that area. And Rajshekaran came and gave a set of lectures for us. I don't recollect Bhaskaran coming and giving lectures there, as far as I'm not able to recollect that. But certainly, you came and talked about anomalies. Prabir Roy came and talked about deep inelastic scattering. So we had a very invigorating place. And another advantage we had was Professor Tulsidas had already a firm, faithful believer of gauge theories. He had already written papers in the mid-60s on gauge theories which were in PRL. And so we had a head start in many ways. The only other place where I know was in Tata Institute, clearly due to Professor Rajshekaran who had worked on that. So this was the atmosphere we had, and we all learned a lot from such people. I would like to thank now people, Professor Balasubramaniam, to have given me a place for 5 years to teach here, and then the Chennai Mathematical Institute where I have been teaching for the last 5 years, and Professor Mukunda for making us teach in refresher courses. Govind, Rajaji and I, we have been going there regularly, and this has been just a great time. I would like to thank all of you, and Professor Simon and Professor Balasubramaniam for having arranged this wonderful function. It's a very pleasant feeling. Thank you.
Professor Mukunda, representing the Indian National Science Academy. Professor Mani, my co-honoree. Professor Balasubramanian, the director of this institute. Friends, colleagues, old students, and those of you who have gathered this afternoon, Vanakkam. I am so... This event is a very emotional one for me. I come back to this city after 20 years away to discover total chaos on the streets and an elevated city being built. But I also discover old boys and colleagues with hearts filled with love. These days, I have come 10,000 miles around the world to be here. So these days are very precious to me. But before I talk about the award, I would like to say that I was called to come to India by Professor Savara Ryan, whose family has given me a token. He was a physicist and a man of great imagination and character. His successor, Dr. Tangaraj from MCC here in the city, was likewise a physicist and a man of character and courage. Without these two gentlemen, my time would have been quite useless. They always supported the things that I tried to do and encouraged me to make the department that I was building into one that would hold a national and international reputation. I pray for the American College continued leadership of this sort that will bring to the college a renewed vision of what young people can accomplish. Now, in preparing for this moment, I have read the application which Simon has sifted through already. And I found this an extremely emotional experience because he has listed many of the things that we did together with students and faculty at American College. It was not only myself. And so I request your indulgence while I browse through a few of those incidents and relate them to you. It has already been spoken that I introduced a program of helping schools in Devakotai. But I think that the person who spoke did not have the full knowledge of what went on. I used to drive faculty and students in my little Fiat 1100, a very tiny car. We'd load into the boot the equipment that we were going to take, and one day we drove to Devakotai, unloaded the equipment, gave our demonstrations and our talks to the teachers and students, and piled into the car to drive back to Madurai. We were all so excited by the event that we were very enthusiastic. But as we left Devakotai, the horn on my car died. Now, as you know, you can drive in India without brakes, but you may not drive without a horn. And the place where we were at that moment was completely lacking in automobile repair facilities, and I wasn't about to try it myself. So I said to the students, roll down the windows, and when I put your arms out, and when I say horn, bang on the sides of the car. So down the road we went, and there, standing in the middle of the road, is Pasumadu, sleeping, and so I said, horn, and bang, bang, bang. And the Pasumadu woke up and looked and saw this enormous machine with these terrible noises and rushed off into the fields. That was typical of the good times that we had as we worked together. It has been mentioned that I created a library, a departmental library. This was an innovation in the college at the time. You have to remember, this is the middle 1960s. And I gave the students the keys to the department so that they could open and use the department all night if they liked. And they liked. In fact, they enjoyed it so much that one incident occurred when we had just received some new oscilloscopes, large electronic devices the size of a television. And they were mounted on wheeled carts so that they could be moved around easily. The students, two of the boys, discovered that if they took the oscilloscope off the cart, then it became a very interesting vehicle for them to ride on. And one student related to me that he was the pushee and his companion was the pusher, and he was given a terrific push, and he whizzed down the central aisle of the upstairs laboratory only to find Professor standing in the door watching. I had come late in the night to see what was going on, and I found out what was going on. The other thing that happened late at night was that the girls were there, and this was considered by some of the faculty and students in the college to be very naughty. They should be locked up in their dormitory at a certain time. So I said, okay, if they're locked up in their dormitory, then I will close the library at that time, so nobody can use it. I didn't feel that women and men should be differentiated. Well, that didn't suit the grumblers, so they came and had a big discussion with the then principal and decided that the matter could be fixed this way. Men and women should be able to use the library as late as they liked in the night. But when the ladies went back to their dormitory, they must be accompanied by a gent student, which of course pleased both the ladies and the gents very much. Now we've got to figure out some of my writing here. Oh, we started a course called Basic Skills in Learning Physics, which was, as has been related, largely a communications course to teach students how to speak so that they could be understood. If I asked the student, "What is your name?" he would say, "Balasubramanian." Did you hear? No. So I said, you must say, "My name is Balasubramanian." Just 3 days ago, I sat with the students of the present MSc Physics department, and I asked them, "What are you going to do when you leave this department?" No answer. And so the professor leaned over to me and said, "We don't teach the skills course anymore, but I think we should restart it. So maybe some things will come back." I also asked them, when you leave this college with your MSc, how many of you want to have a job? Put your hand. Two people answered. This is going to bite me sooner or later. 2 people answered. Then I said, how many of you would like more education, higher degrees? Everybody put their hand. Okay. Where do you want to study for higher degrees? In Madurai? Very few people put their hand. In Chennai? Few more people. Bangalore? Many hands went up. Delhi? None. We must teach our students not to trap themselves inside Tamil Nadu. There is a world out there that is waiting for you if you will reach for it. Somebody has mentioned that the old boys of PG Physics in American College are on every continent in the world, every one. I just had an email from one of our old boys who is at an astronomical observatory in Brazil and presumably speaking Portuguese. Dear friends, a lot has happened in the 30 years that I taught at American College. But age has robbed me of all memories of names or even faces. So when you greet me, please tell me your name and what class you were studying, and then we'll be able to continue. I am sorry that Mrs. Reese is not able to be here. I hope she is able to see the video and appreciate the many nice things that have been said about her. The department would not have been created and operated the way it was without her input and her care for all of the students. Thank you for your memories in that regard. With this well-appreciated award by INSA, the American College and its postgraduate physics department have had their position in this country raised materially, and I thank you for that. INSA is certainly to be congratulated on making these awards. On behalf of myself, my wife, and all the well-wishers of American College and Physics, I thank you very much. Vanakkam.
Now I have the pleasant job of vote of thanks. See, I hope you realize that this function is very, very unusual. This is, Dr. Rees is not a member of this institute, and Professor Mani is not a member of this at this moment. But that the institute is still holding the function, I think this talks a lot about Professor Balasubramaniam, our director. I think people who are members of the institute know it, but people from outside, I want you to appreciate that this is a very, very unusual thing. Even I am a retired person. Okay, so I talked to Professor Balasubramaniam when the Professor Rees was nominated. At that time, he read the nomination and then he told me, oh, I wish I had known him earlier so that I could have interacted with him live. Then he told me that he was willing to write a letter to INSA saying that our institute will meet even the airfare to bring him here because his outreach experience will be very useful. So therefore, it was agreed that Professor Rees will not be able to go to the annual meeting and the award will be presented here. When I made this suggestion, Balu immediately agreed, and in his usual way of the enabling attitude rather than controlling attitude. And H.S. Mani did not go there and receive, and thereby he has essentially doubled our joy. So I want to first of all thank INSA for creating these instruments which did not exist until now. Otherwise, these people would have been honored probably 40 years back. I know by personal experience, I think Dr. Rees had received this, earned this honor when I was a student and a faculty member there. That was 30 years back, 40 years back. And it is true of Mani also when he was in Kanpur. Anyway, so I want to congratulate INSA or thank INSA for creating this instrument, and for the President and Executive Secretary of INSA for allowing this presentation to be held here. I mean, having a felicitation here is completely under the control of the Institute, but the INSA President and its Executive Secretary were willing to play ball so that we could make the award presentation itself here is not something that anybody can take for granted. So we have to particularly thank the INSA as an organization, particularly the President and his Executive Secretary. And I want to thank Professor Mukunda for agreeing to present these awards. You know, I have had two excellent teachers that nobody mentioned about board work, because this is something that I should mention even if you are late. Dr. Rees has a phenomenal board work ability. Professor Mukunda also has. I have never seen Professor Mukunda erasing and saying that, oh, this is not what I mean. But their approach is very different. They teach very differently. Professor Mukunda takes a linear approach. Professor Rees' board work, you should see, it's really a stage performance. He writes here something, here something, here something. It's not linear. Finally, at the end of the day, it's like a collage set. It's really like there is no vacant space on the board. There is nothing wanting. The whole lecture is essentially contained in the thing. And I also often think that it's really shame on me that having had two excellent teachers as role model, that I don't know, I cannot even say I tried to imitate them, because there is nothing that has been produced in results. So if I say whether I tried or not, nobody will pay any respect. So it's particularly, I'm thankful to Professor Mukunda for agreeing to travel down from Bangalore. He just arrived from Delhi last night, late night. I don't know if it was late night or early morning. If the flight was late, it would have been early morning, but anyway, he came. And I thank Krish. When I thought whom I can ask for to speak about money, several names came to my mind, but Chris was the first. Then when I called him, he said, why me? I said, you are easy meat for me. No, that was not the thing. Among all those people, I thought, you are my only teacher. So I wanted a situation where the place is full of my teachers. So thank you, Chris, for coming and doing a wonderful job. So when this thing was agreed to be done, I wanted for people who don't belong to my institute, which very unusually in the audience, now it is majority. I think there are very small fraction from my institute people. In my institute, arranging any function is very easy. You just tell our administration, first you tell the director essentially says okay, because he knows that things will be done, as my daughter used to say when she was small, okayly. Director believes that people will do things okayly, so director approves, then you take it to the administration. Administration also thinks that it is their job. They take great pride. Vishnu Prasad is here. All the people in the administration, I should not be naming any because everybody is involved. There's nothing left for us. If you were to say in Tamil, fully vacha code potruvaanga. Actually, if you put just 3 dots, they will draw a quadratic curve. This is the way our administration functions. So it's it has been very easy for us. The people who deal with the transport or video recording, everything has been done by others. My role was only to take the suggestion to the director to suggest that the function be held here, and the rest is in motion. I'm particularly thankful to members of the Savarirayan family for making it, for taking the trouble to come here, because I know that it is very, very precious for Dr. Rees, because it is he who brought Dr. Rees to the country with great vision. There is one person whom I will be, whom if I don't thank, I will be reckless. That is this gentleman, Ted McKnight. Ted, can you please stand up? This is Mr. Ted. Dr. Rees is not able to travel alone, and when I first wrote a letter to Dr. Rees that he has been chosen for the award, he did not respond. Then I copied it. I bounced it again after waiting for a week. This time I copied to his son, and promptly I got from his son, which essentially said that we are not even sure whether you have done whether you have helped us or wronged us. This was essentially tone of Matt Rees's thing. Now, after seeing Dr. Rees, I understand what he meant, because he has, in the last few travels, he has broken quite a few bones. So the children, naturally, my children are worried at this age. Children are naturally worried that keeping the bones intact is more important than getting awards, which I think it makes perfect sense. But for Rees, in his heart, this is like going to pilgrimage. You know, Christians going to Jerusalem. Even if it were to cry over the Wailing Wall, but like Muslims go to their own. So for him, it's a pilgrimage. And he was so passionate, finally he was able to mobilize the resources to buy 2 business class tickets so that he could bring Ted as somebody to assist him. I have seen Ted, the way he has taken care of Dr. Rees during these last 15 days without any mishap. It's a great relief for me. So I should be actually shawling him, but because we wanted to keep it academic. So Ted, will you please stand up? We will give you a big... Very well done, Ted. Thank you very much. So I told Dr. Rees yesterday when I asked him that he should speak, oh, you must know I am not 65, I am 86. Then I told him my grandfather used to say, Yana paduthalum kudurayoda oyaram. Now, but many of the Tamil-speaking people, I like to explain this, but for Dr. Rees, no such explanation is needed. He simply understands. I did not explain, he understood. And he is in his days, he's a great stage performer. I think somebody said that Sidney Coleman could have made a living even if he was not a physicist as a stage performer. But I think people, they have never sat through Dr. Rees's lecture. But anyway, I'm very happy that it's a lot big personal satisfaction for me that Dr. Rees was allowed by his children to come, and he was able to come. As I said, our director even was willing to offer airfare. He was very appreciative. Bala, you want to know that Dr. Rees was very appreciative of your kind offer. But he felt that it's proper only for him to make his own arrangement of resources. But he has been enjoying, you know, and the only grievance he had, he went to Madurai for 5 days. When he came back, you know, this is a little bit of, you must know a little bit more about, just before this thing has been postponed already twice. And one day he suddenly writes to me a letter because he did not. I sent me a mail. I got my visa today, I am boarding the flight tomorrow. I mean, the INSA award is not in my pocket. You know, we have to arrange the material to come from Delhi. I got the visa today, I am boarding the flight tomorrow. So I called him. This is the only time I have called him in the United States because it was become so desperate. I called him. Do you really mean that you have booked, you have actually issued the ticket? He said, yes, we are boarding it tomorrow. Well, there was not really much I could do. Then I said, do you have any diet restrictions? No. In fact, I am looking forward to good sapadu. So when he came back from Madurai, I asked him, was it Madurai good? Oh, but they never allowed me to have kottu paratha. So I took him out as soon as he came back to have kottu paratha, but it's not, Chennai is not the same as Madurai, you know, Madurai is Madurai, you know, but well, I think yesterday I found a place which is good first approximation for Madurai. And one can go on and on. Our joint adventures after 11 o'clock on the streets of Madurai, there is no comparison. In summer, Mrs. Rees will be in Kodaikanal. I was a real bachelor because I was not yet married. Professor Rees was a practical bachelor. Around 10, 11, we will be working on some around 11 o'clock. Simon, I am very hungry. Are you not hungry? Of course, I am always hungry at that age. So you go out, that shop is closed, this shop is closed. Just wander around the streets of things. Anyway, so I am very happy that Dr. Rees for giving us the pleasure of seeing you here and enjoying time with you. And for Professor Mani for doubling up this joy of ours, and for Professor Balasubramaniam, who is the single reason for that this function could be held here. I think nobody else can take any credit for it. So I thank you, Paulu, for as they say, from my bowels or from my heart. So I thank all of you, the students old students of American College. Thank you very much for your endurance for 1 extra hour.